If you have very little money in your bank, what you can do is if you put some more money into the bank, then you try to balance your account. The Buddha exactly said that. Punya karma, if you do more punya karma, be of service to the people, service to the humanities, your humanity, your community, your society, Bahujana Hitaya, Bahujana Sukhaya, in Pali, you can change that Papa karma to punya karma, make more, have more credit in your bank balance, and cancel the debit account. So, and then again in the way of introduction, also he talked about spiritual equality. In no uncertain terms he said, be it a man, be it a woman, it is the same chariot that will take you to Nibbana. Whether it is a man or a woman, it is the same chariot that will take you to Nibbana, final destination. So this is the real true empowerment of women. Now, when it comes to the true empowerment, the Buddha has gone beyond. He spoke of a state of non-existence of self. Who are we here? We are all, we have different names, different colors, different persons, men and women. But when it comes to it, who are we? What are we? We are only the 5 elements. So it is the 5 elements, Panchabhuta. It's a deconstructionist theory, right? What we call deconstructionist. Those of you who know Derrida in fact took a very simple form of deconstructionist theory. It's a very simple form. The Buddha went far beyond, and Nagarjuna, the Mahayana scholar, went far, far beyond. And he, the same thing, knows selflessness, and he also developed this whole Shunyata. Shunyata, the nothingness. Shunyata, what we call Shunyata here, the circle, is the zero. In fact, the zero in mathematics was developed through this concept, Nagarjuna's concept of Shunyata. Mathematics, the Arabs had developed 1, 2, 3, 4, the others, but plus and the minus, but the zero was missing. Only after the development of the zero, real mathematics grew, the plus and the minus. Zero, zero was developed from Shunyata. So now I want to go ask this question. That is the theory in Buddhism. I just spoke about the theory. What are we in practice? What are our present day realities? As a woman, as a Buddhist woman, what are our realities? How do we, are there obstacles to realize our potential in our cultures? We come from different cultures, different backgrounds, different educational levels. What are the problems we have? What are the obstacles we face to develop our potential, full potential, as the Buddha said? How do we reconcile this theory with the contemporary reality, with today's reality? Do we have equal opportunities? Do we have equal status in society? So we will go from here. I would like to ask a question from some of you. I will start with either the mothers or the grandmothers generation. How do you feel? How do you perceive? How do you see? What were the characteristics of your mothers and the grandmothers? problems or the opportunities they had, or the qualities, and what are the characteristics of your fathers and grandfathers? Can somebody answer that question? Several from different backgrounds, please. One of the nuns here, would you please, one of you? Even in Tibetan language, that could be translated by Venerable Lobsang. What about, yes? Yeah, no, what are the qualities of the grandmother? I mean, the grandmother or the mother. Are you different from your mother? Or what are the, I wanted to have two lists of people, of women and men. How do we associate our mothers and the what were the problems they had? In your perceptions, was the father stronger than the mother? Was the father stronger than the mother? Yes? Yes. And was the father more educated than the mother? So care, you mean care of children. Yes, care of children and the elderly and the responsibility, right? The care and the care of the elderly, the children, all that. Father did not have that responsibility. What else? What else? Yes, please. Your own mother, I'm talking about grandmother. Okay.
But it was different in that my mom had responsibility for dealing with the physical health, and my father had responsibility for financial.
Right. Yes. So who else? Yeah. Yes. From Nepal.
Mother has always two minds.
Yes.
One is for the husband and one is for the children.
Yes. Okay, the mother had two minds. Yeah. So more or less, almost an equal almost about this after, right? Okay. Children and the husbands and Venerable Lakshmi.
The father made the decisions.
Father was the decision maker. Mother had hardly any power to make decisions. Coco?
But the father couldn't come into the kitchen.
Father did not. So she had work, household work. The mother was the servant or the maid of the house, serving the father, right? And serving the brothers and the sisters and the servant, right? Okay. Yeah. Some, can you hear?
ការនៅក្រៅជីដូនរបស់ខ្ញុំថែរក្សាកូនចៅកម្មឡថែរក្សា
All household work, everything was done by the mother, and the father was the person who was doing other activities, the economic and all that. Yes. Okay, she had quite a nurturing father, modern generation, and also it's very different sometimes in the West because, yes, the father controls the mother. That is money, sorry. And the money, financial responsibility was with the mother, the father. And also the sexuality, mother's sexuality. That is, right? Mother, meaning that the control, meaning that how many children can the mother decide how many children she could have? No. My mother would never decide how many children she could have. You know? Yes, please. Okay, so you get different individuals, very caring. The father was caring, and took care of the mother?
My mother made most of the decisions and also handled most of the money.
Your mother, right, okay. Some women have the opportunity to handle money. In Southeast Asia, in Burma, Thailand, even Laos, you get that very much. The mother to handle money. And, yes? Sorry? Or the mother handle the money. Share the child care. So it's an ideal model. Share the child care. Okay. Now we go one by one. One of those things. Weak, physically weak. The mother was physically weak. The father was physically strong. Now I have a question. Mother was physically weak. My mother too was physically weak. Father was physically strong. Elephants are also physically very strong. Elephants, but they have very small brain. Elephants, physically very strong, but the brain is very small. Elephants, right? Okay. Now I will see the difference in physical terms. A person, not necessarily a weak person, not necessarily mentally weak, right? Maybe very intelligent. Yes, somebody else is.
She has that comment over there.
Yes?
Actually, I'm having a little bit of a problem right now because as a person who came from a different sort of family,
Yes.
I noticed that the words that were indicated to go up on the board were
Yes.
very stereotypical.
Yes.
But when something that did not fit the stereotype that you wanted to portray up there,
Yes.
you did not indicate for them to be written down.
Okay.
And so there are many, I think, I'll
Yes.
say for myself, but I think there are many women I've been looking at the faces and
Agreed.
going, wait a minute, that is not my
Okay,
experience.
agreed. You say the same thing. Okay, agreed. But we have to understand that we have totally different cultural backgrounds here. Look at the verse now. You come from the first world after generations of professional, maybe you are the third generation professional. Okay? So I said at the very beginning, cultural circuits can be very different. We come from, so I have to cater for the majority of the people who are Indians, who are Nepalis, who are Tibetans, and vast majority of people, and not to the Americans and the Canadians, not only the Americans and the Canadians. And here, when I started this, I did not mean because I did not want to talk to the converted. You are already converted to gender issues. You are, in terms of gender, you are already enlightened. Already enlightened. Who am I to teach you or to train you in gender? You are already enlightened. So here the vast majority of people are different, they have different backgrounds. They come different, that's why otherwise I will say, you have no problem. I go out. There's no need for me to talk about gender issues here to the converted. To those who are already gender sensitive, you use the word, right? Gender sensitive. There's no point in my talking, in addressing those of you who are, most of you who are gender sensitive. This must be the 100th conference you are attending. You may have gone through gender training, so many gender workshops, this, that, and the other. So here, what I am aiming at is a different target group. Okay? Right. Yes, right. Okay. Lauren, you want to say something? Yes?
Also, I think a lot of times people assume that Western families must have already been transformed along this line.
Right.
I come from a much more traditional family, and one thing I want to say about my family.
Please speak a little slowly so that our
express any feeling, including anger and domination. My mother was never allowed to express, or the children were never allowed to express those feelings. We had to express reconciliation, placate his feelings. We had to learn how to handle him. He never had to learn how to deal with us.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we go, then I just wanted to say this. Now see, my mother, I got the best example is that I came from an ordinary family in Sri Lanka. And my mother was a traditional woman, the father was the usual role the father played, not in that generation, the breadwinner who made the money and who made the decisions, the mother, the typical stereotype mother, weak, less educated than the father and all that. So what I'm trying to get at is, why is this situation so? And also maybe that, now I will take my own family now. My husband, I would say when it comes to physical weakness, my husband is weaker than a rural woman in Sri Lanka, physically. A rural woman in Sri Lanka works much harder than my husband. So as a result, so it can vary from class to class. The point I also wanted to make within the, not only in within the class, within the same society, people could be different, men and women. At the same time, a laborer, an ordinary human being in our part of the world, say for example, Nepal or India or Sri Lanka, may be far more oppressed, far more exploited than an upper class woman in the same country. I have a lot of women in India, friends in India, who come from the upper class. They always say they have no problems. They have never faced discrimination. They have never faced discrimination or oppression because they were up there. They were born with it. They were born to a privileged family. And they had all the privileges, all the comforts that they could, so that they could realize their potential. So there was somebody else who, yeah. Okay, fine. And please, so the idea is interactive. I mean, I try to be as interactive as possible. We have, yes, male hand going up, please. We are the rose among the thorns.
I come from a family with very strong women. My mother, my grandmother, my auntie, and they're the ones that taught me the gentleness in life. Although inside I'm a warrior, there's also that part of me that without that strong woman power, I would be a real radical person.
Thank you very much for reminding me that. Take Southeast Asia, in Cambodia where I work now, and in Sri Lanka, in Thailand, in Burma. By the way, they all seem to be, they all Theravada countries. The woman appears to be very powerful. The mother appears to be very powerful. But I want to ask, do they have the real power? Do they have the real power? Some of them say that they have the real power because they have the power over the purse. The father, the husband brings the money and gives the money back to the woman. But does it mean that he has the real power? No, I'm sorry. No. The father takes all the decisions. Father takes all the decisions. Only very few families, they are in shared decision making. The mother and the father take decisions. I want to go back to the Buddha. What the Buddha did in the 600 before Christ is he instituted some of these things, giving the power to the wife, to the mother. The property rights in Buddhism, still they have continued in our Buddhist countries. Property rights, women women have equal, almost equal property rights, unlike in the Indian society. Venerable Burma spoke a few days ago the problems that she faced in terms of education. Educated woman was a woman who is trying to study was regarded as a prostitute in the society, an upstart. So here these are the problems. So we have to go in deep into it. Even the mother who controls the purse, does she have the real power? Now, what are the reasons for that? Now, because we have, now I want to ask this question. Is any of you, any time, especially I want to ask the Tibetan sisters, any of you feel that you have never been oppressed, never been discriminated against? You have never faced any obstacles. Could you please answer me? Several of you, please. The answer I got in Dharamsala and also here. I have been asked in several nuns here. Have you ever been discriminated against? Please. Please. Yeah? Those who do not, even in Tibetan, it's okay. Please answer in Tibetan.
They have to understand what oppressed
Huh?
means. It takes a few minutes to understand what oppressed means.
Sorry?
First of all, they have to understand what oppressed
Oh yeah.
So that's why it takes a little while.
Venerable Lobsang, could you please translate oppressed or discriminated against? Again? Yeah, not in the nunnery as a child, not in the nunnery. I'm not talking about being in the nunnery as a child. As a child. Yeah? No. Many, in fact, the many had the same answer I have been getting. In Dharamsala, I interviewed so many nuns, they all said they have never been discriminated as children in Tibetan society. Even here they said they have never been discriminated. Okay. I respect your understanding, but I want to ask you one question. Did you have the equal kind of opportunities to go to school, like the boys, like your brothers? You had? You could go to school like your brother? Everybody?
No.
Everybody had school to go to like your brothers?
And we are women, we go to school, but we have no respect like a boy. We want to go to school. We want good education, but we have no good education. In Ladakh, for example, in Ladakh, there is no good education for women. We have problems in women and none also. In before in Ladakh, 4-5 years ago, there are very difficulties for us. They just shave the head and just wear the robe, but they have no education. Very difficult for them. They are like a servant in.
Like a servant. Thank you. Now what did our nun say? They could go to school, but no respect like the boys. No respect like the boys, right? That is priority. Priority. No, it is the son's education that was the priority, not the daughter's education, not the girl's education. But overall, is it the same? Yes, please.
I'd just like to say that now many nuns have a different experience because in the last 20 years, in the last 10 to 20 years, the problem has been seen. But if you look back and having been in Tibet, many of the nunneries for the first time were getting books and language and literature and education. Whereas they had in the past, they didn't have. It's slowly being rectified.
Okay. Now, that's good. Thank you very much, because now you have come to a different situation the last 20 years. The nuns they received a good education. But when it comes to when you compare the role of the monks and the nuns, do you get the same respect as the monks? No. Do you not? So that is called oppression or discrimination. Oh, nowhere in the world, probably, except in Taiwan, few places like Korea, but still, there is always, they do more. You know, the monks have a better place than the nuns, although there are more nuns in Taiwan and Korea than the monks. So we see, what is something I would like to show is this discrimination or oppression is very invisible. You don't see. You don't see. You ask a middle class wife, do you have any problems? They say, no. My husband gives me all the money, whatever he earns. I have no problem. I dress well, but in terms of decision making, to what extent? Would they have similar opportunities? So it is not seen, it is not visible. So this is something all over the world it is so. I have done training in Africa, Asia, Latin America. The situation is almost the same. Even in the West, you have gone a long way in terms of education, in terms of employment, but look at that the workplace employment, there is sexual harassment, and then take the university professors, the women have far more problems than the men professors to get their tenure, to get their permanent professorship. All over the world it is so. There is a lot of injustice. So I want to finish with this. The Buddha always stood against injustice. The Buddha always stood against social injustice, unjust social structures. Family is a social structure. Caste is a social structure, social institution. Dowry is a social institution or a social structure. You have to rise against them. The Buddha always stood against them. I just want to end with saying that I did a very interesting series of workshops for monks and nuns for Asia way back in 1994 for the Buddhist monks and nuns. And it was a fantastic experience. By the end of the workshop, it was easy for me to convince the monks than convince the nuns. So, it was easy for me to convince the monks than to convince the nuns, and it was easier for me to convince the lay men rather than lay women, some of the lay women. Because those things are all there. We think that, oh no, we have no problems, we have no discrimination. So I want to end saying that the Buddha, if you follow the true principles of the Buddha always stood against social injustices, unjust, unfair social structures. We have to do the same. Wherever we sit, not violently, we have our own model. Buddhist model the Buddhist model is not a conflict model. It's a harmony model. It's a harmony model. You don't have to conflict with anybody. Our real Buddhists, our brothers, fathers, and all of them. So this is the real Buddhist way. I want to finish by saying there are two different truths in Buddhism. One is the conventional truth, what we call Samudra Satya, and other one is the Paramattha Satya. When you talk about true happiness, true empowerment, it is the Nibbana. But we have to have the Samudra Satya here as long as we live in a community and in a society with equality, human dignity, and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Intentionally kill. Okay? What? Misconduct. Okay? So the second precept we call no stealing, right? No stealing. Now the first one, Shirley is writing down not to intentionally kill. Intentionally is a very difficult word. And I want to explain what the word means. Intentionally means that you don't have it in your mind that you're going to kill. That's what it means. There's no desire to kill. And the second precept, yeah.
The first precept of the Buddhist says kill anything.
Not to kill anything. Yes, we'll talk about that. So the second precept is what? Not to steal. Good. Not to steal. And the third precept is no lying. Sometimes we call that right speech. One of the phrases, at least in the English language that we use when we say not lying, is right speech. And the fourth precept is you know what? We consider that part of not stealing, not taking. How do you learn the fourth precept? Not lying? We have not lying already. Sexual misconduct. Okay, so no sexual misconduct. And misconduct means not to use your sexuality for harming or for wrong purposes. Okay? And would you put over this one? Thank you. Okay, so far we have not to kill, not to steal, not to lie or right speech, no sexual misconduct, and there's one more. That's right. That's right. No, it's the fifth precept that we have in this list is not to misuse alcohol or what we call stimulants, which also means drugs, right? So we'll put alcohol and drugs. So no matter whether we practice Theravada or Mahayana, whether we live in Japan or we live in Dharamsala or we live in California, we all take these precepts. So we're going to think together about the first precept. So Shirley's going to write up here, not to kill. Okay? Now, what does that mean for our conduct in the world? What are some of the things that it means not to kill? It means to cherish. What does that mean? To cherish all life. Okay, so honor all life. Okay? What else does it mean? Sister? To have, okay. Paula.
Connected to everything. The reason we should be killing, the reason is because it's our life also, that connection of life.
Good.
The value of life.
Okay, so it's the value of life, but it's also, Carolyn is saying, it's the understanding of interconnection. So part of this first precept, when we stretch, is to understand our connection to all beings. Would you get all these on the board, please? Okay, what else does that first precept tell us? What does it tell us about our world, our governments? What does it say to us? Lynn?
I think to also make sure we don't put any obstacles to people living their life. There is a quality of life as well that we should try to work at.
So to encourage a good quality of life, because it means that we not only we don't kill the body, we don't kill the spirit of people, right? To not kill, part of it means you don't take a knife and kill somebody, but part of it means you don't kill the spirit of somebody. So what Lynn is saying is you help everybody to have a very full life. Okay, Tom was going to say something.
To nurture, I was thinking, when I think of the first precept, I think of a nurturing environment, providing a nurturing environment.
Okay, how would you explain nurturing?
Caring.
Okay, to provide a care, to take care, to practice loving kindness. What else does it mean? Think about the governments that we live with. What does it mean about our governments? We're part of our government. What does it say in the first precept? The right to life, okay? So what does this tell us about the governments that we live under? How do they practice the first precept? Mr. Keller?
Every religion, for the most part, has that do not kill, and yet our governments conduct wars against each other where they legally go running around killing each other. And we're under those governments and they decide to have a war and make the young men go and fight. And it's very critical.
Okay, so as someone, for me, as someone who was taken the 5 precepts, the first precept means not to support war, right? Not to encourage war, because war is a violation of the precept, and I am part of my government, and you are part of your government. So if we encourage war, then we're violating our own very first precept. Okay? Anything else you can think of on the first precept? Really stretching your mind. What does this mean for you as a Buddhist practitioner? Yes, Patricia.
In our country, America, they have capital punishment,
Good.
which is put to death for a crime which they believe is against the law of the country.
Okay. Good. So for me, again, Patricia's saying the same thing. Part of the first precept is no death penalty. Not for the government to kill anybody. Because that again violates the precept to support and encourage and nurture life. Okay? Lauren. Yes, it also means very much protection of the environment. Because life is the environment. We are the environment. Everything around us is the environment. So the whole movement for environmental protection can be understood as developing out of the first precept. Very important part of really opening our minds to what does this precept mean. I saw another hand. Yes? To take care of health, which means my body, your body, and the global body, right? All kinds of health. It's again, it's part of respecting life. Yes, sister. Okay, so education and metta, loving kindness and compassion, again, it helps us create a world where there will not be killing, where nobody will be violating the precepts. For children, right, beginning with small children, that in my country, children are exposed to so much violence in the media, but to change that so that the education for children teaches them to have a loving heart, teaches them not to harm other people. Yes? Right, it's another controversial issue we're not going to get into, but but it's part of it, right? Okay? One or two more, then I want to move on. Yes, Sandy.
When we try to keep the first precept, what do we do about rats?
About rats and vermin. The question about rats and vermin is a big question about the first precept. Do we allow people to kill rats or vermin or mosquitoes that breed malaria? These are very complicated issues. Yes, Siren?
I think killing causes suffering and also breeds revenge, and that causes more violence.
That's right. So we want to prevent revenge. I want to move on because we have 4 more precepts and 15 more minutes. So the second precept, not to steal. Now again, think about, so stealing means, the most obvious kind of stealing means I see this bell and I want this bell so I put it in my pocket. Everybody knows about that. That's easy, okay? But let's take stealing and think about what that means again. What does that mean when you take that precept not to steal in the world? What do you think it might mean? Yes, Paula.
When you use more than you need.
When you use more than you need, which means sharing resources, right? If I eat up all the candy that sister gave us this morning, right, then it can't be shared. If I use up all the water in the world, the water can't be shared. Good. So that's very important. Yes, sister. What? Hoarding. No hoarding. Which means greed, right? And we know that one of the poisons in the Dhamma is greed. So no hoarding, no keeping things. What else does that mean? Yes? Taking care of what you have. Say a little bit about that.
Like whatever you have, like your education, your clothing,
Your health,
shoes,
right.
your health, everything that you're given in life, we have a responsibility to care for it.
Beautiful. So taking care of everything that we have, again, keeps us from stealing because we don't take more. What else does not stealing mean? Sister?
Business in general, but third world development taking from less fortunate.
Okay. So it means that people in the overdeveloped world, or one kind of developed world, should not take from people in parts of the world that don't have the material development, right? None of us like the term of first world and third world, but not to take from other people who are less fortunate. Not to steal the resources, not to steal the money from people who are less fortunate. That's part of what not stealing means. Learn? Okay, so part of not stealing is not to steal people's human rights, which means rights for justice, right? Rights for safety, rights for truth. Okay, sister.
Have to be satisfied, whatever we have.
Great. To be satisfied. Again, this is good Dharma teaching. Coming out of the second precept, part of not stealing is to be satisfied. This is what I have. Thank you. I appreciate this. Yes, sister.
You have to be clear about the ownership and the identification. You cannot just assume that ownership belongs to a certain person.
Good.
Because
Good.
not taking what is not given. So if you just assume.
Great. So not to hold on to ownership is another thing.
Or to clarify who is the owner.
Or to clarify, to be clear about ownership. Right. That's right. Because a lot of kind of stealing is assumption about ownership. Thinking we own things. Very nice. Sister Lecture.
Not cheating, saying that we don't have something when actually we do.
Okay. Not cheating. Good. Let's, okay, we'll do one or two more. Lynn?
Okay, just wages for work.
Just wages for work. Very good. We talked this morning about women's rights, and we know in the world that women don't earn the same as men for doing the same work, right? And many people work very hard and don't get good wages, and that's part of stealing from people. Yes? Good. Not to steal ideas. Right, exactly, right. Okay, so that's looking at not stealing from a bad lie?
White lie.
Not to say a white lie, or any kind of lie, not to lie. Okay? No gossip. Good. Very important thing. Part of right speech means that we don't gossip. And it's very easy to gossip, and it's fun to gossip, right? But it's not very nice. So we have to be careful that we don't gossip, because gossip is often very negative things. Okay? What else? Yes. Good. So speech should create wellness, should create harmony in the community, especially for our sisters who live in community. That speech should create harmony. As our sister this morning spoke so beautifully about living in community, your community in Hawaii, and how important it is that people live in harmony. So that's part of right speech. What else is right speech? Not to speak harshly. Not to speak harshly. Not to abuse each other. Good. Not to abuse each other. Yes. To speak sincerely. Okay. Can we think of anything that right speech means in terms of the bigger social picture, in terms of our governments, our traditions, Linda?
Responsibility of the media and government.
Great. Good. Responsible media. I want to tell you that in my work as a peace builder in the world, one of the biggest problems is the media. And how much trouble the media makes in terms of what it tells us and what it doesn't tell us. So right speech, responsible speech in the media is very important. In many countries, the media helps to push people into war. Very dangerous. So thank you for that. What else? Yeah.
I think along with that, you have to have critical thinking and ability to listen.
Good. Critical thinking and ability to listen so that we understand what is right speech. What else? What? Distortion? Uh-huh. Right. Okay, in the world. What else? Patricia?
Right to speak up for what you agree with, particularly if you speak against the government.
Good. So that's another very important one. That right speech means the freedom to disagree. And there has to be a certain safety, otherwise you can't disagree. So the freedom to be able to speak up and say our truth. Yes.
So I think we have to also work towards media which does not rely on profits from multinational corporations.
Good.
Because we have no voice in like South Asia.
That's right. Exactly. Right. So media that really speaks for the people, right? Responsible media speaking for the people's needs. So this business about, again, taking the precept, the commitment to speak the truth, talks about you and me as individuals, talks about how we live in our communities and our families, and also talks about how we live in the world. And the theme of the conference is about self, family, community, and world. So how do we take the right speech all the way to the highest levels of responsible government, responsible media? Okay, let's look at the fourth precept, which is no sexual misconduct. This is also very important. What does this mean in the world? What does this mean in the world? No sexual misconduct. What's one? Not to exploit each other. Yeah, sister. Respecting relationships. Yes. What else does this mean? Liz?
It means there must be a possibility for good sexual conduct.
Which means?
There must be possibility for opportunity for an acceptance of good
Acceptance of good use of sexual conduct. Yes, you know. It means no sex trade, no selling of women, right? It's a big problem in all our Asian countries. Trafficking in women. Women are taken from Nepal and Burma and Thailand and Cambodia for the sex trade. It's a very big issue. And it has to do with this commitment that we make in the Dharma for right use of sexuality. Yes, Patricia.
The right to choose
The right to choose, right? Good. So it means that we as women have the right to choose sexuality or refuse sexuality, which means it goes back to our health concerns, control of our bodies as women. Okay, Sarah?
It means using one's body out of love rather than out of any kind of fear.
Good.
Or negative.
Good. Right, so being loving with our bodies. Sister?
People know this concept is a good way to avoid this.
Good way to avoid AIDS, right. Right, the whole question about AIDS, right? It's very big one here, and so is the whole issue of family planning, isn't it? Comes in here. Sister?
I would say to be careful of commitment. So if obviously one from London is no
Good.
sexual activity, and then if it's in a relationship, whether it's married or agreed, that there's no cheating.
Wonderful.
You stick
So that what we say in this precept is we honor commitments. So if we are ordained, we honor the commitment to celibacy. If we are married, we honor the commitment to fidelity. So it's honoring the commitment that we make. We take that and we carry it, and we don't misuse it. Yes, sister. That's right. One wife or one husband. So again, it's keeping the commitment to the marriage that we've made. Sister Carol? Good. Let's put that in there also, the selling of children and how important that is. Tricia?
The right of sex education, family planning.
Wonderful. That's very good. So part of this commitment, this fourth precept to no sexual misconduct includes the right to sexual education and family planning to prevent the misuse of that precept. Yes? No sexual abuse of children and families. Right, and again, this is a problem, a very sad problem all over the world. In many countries, people don't speak about it, but it happens everywhere. It's the sexual misconduct against children by members of families. And it's a very, very tragic problem that children carry their whole lives. They suffer from that.
Rape prevention.
Rape prevention. So educating people about what is rape, what is sexual violence, in order that everyone be able to take care of themselves, and educate women and men in this, in all our communities. So you see that you take this very simple precept that's only 3 words, no sexual misconduct, right? And then you stretch it, and you see how important this is for living a good life. Let's take the last precept, which is the precept about no drugs or alcohol. What's the problem with this one? Why do we practice this one? Sister?
Basically, if you break that one, I'm sure you know the Tibetan story, but if you break that one, you break all the others.
You want to tell us the Tibetan story?
Well, no, I'm really embarrassed. You know the story when the monks go to a house, and there's different versions, different cultures.
Okay.
But the monks go into the house on the road, and the monks going to a house on the road, and there's a lady. I feel shy. There's a lady in the house, and she says there's different variations. But she had a goat, and there was a lady, and she had some alcohol, and she said, "Oh, please, she tried different things. Can you have? Will you take me, or will you eat and eat?" This kind of thing. And Mom said, "No." And then she said, "Well, if you don't have any of these, then I'll kill myself." She was very dramatic. And so he goes, "Oh, what must I do? What is the easiest thing that causes the less problem?" He thought, "Oh, drink the alcohol, then I don't have to kill the animal, I don't kill the woman." So he drunk the alcohol, killed the goat, and had the woman. So this is the example.
Great. So the primary teaching about this precept is exactly that. The primary teaching is if you break this precept, you're going to break the other precepts too. Because the drug and the alcohol changes the mind. and then all the precepts can be broken. When I was working in Nepal a couple of years ago, I was working with women that came from remote regions, and we were talking about the social problems in Nepal, and they said that for them as Nepali women, the abuse of alcohol was one of the major social problems, because the abuse of alcohol meant that the rice that was being saved to eat all year was being changed into alcohol and being drunk by the local people, and then there was no food, and then there was more sexual violence, and then there was more stealing, and there was more lying, and there was more killing because of the alcohol. So the abuse of alcohol and drugs creates many problems in our society. What else do we want to say about alcohol and drugs here, in terms of, again, our social understanding? It creates poverty in the family, right? It creates violence in the family. It creates illness in the mind and the body. Good. And what? They beat their wives when drunkenness creates wife abuse and child abuse. Beautiful. And the children learn from their fathers. The boys model their lives after their fathers, and then you have the repeating of the cycle of the alcohol and the violence. It's very important. Also, drug trafficking in the world, right? And very dangerous issue here in Asia and in other parts of the world as well. The trafficking in drugs and the corruption and the violence, and then related to the drug trafficking is the guns, and then you have the first precept because you're killing people. So it's a very big issue. Anything else to add to this?
It's addictive.
Yes, I'll get to that.
For the monastics, where I've been staying in Nepal, where the monastics should take the leadership role to help us people to eliminate and reduce the alcoholism, when they join in, instead of becoming the refuge object, they are causing the delusion by helping to support the alcohol in this culture.
So, and then they're breaking precepts.
So the lack of the loss of the refuge object.
That's right. That's right. Good. Beautiful. So the strong importance of the Sangha, really honoring this precept. And what Sister over here said is also addictive, that once you start with alcohol and drugs, then you're caught in your own cycle of great suffering. Praise God, dukkha. Sarah?
Despite so strange, just a detail is that in Nepal, at least, alcoholism also causes deforestation.
Yes.
People make their alcohol with a great amount of wood, and in alcohol producing areas, there's much more of a problem.
Right, so the production of alcohol creates the destruction of the forest because you need so much wood to ferment the alcohol, and then you're breaking the precept of stealing because you're stealing the forests that are needed for survival. 1, 2, go ahead.
When I think of this precept, I don't always think of just alcohol or drugs, but anything that clouds your mind and your ability to make good judgment and do good action for yourself. So that could be a whole variety of things, but not just limited to drugs and alcohol. But you want to have a clear mind.
That's right. So anything that creates an unclear mind, I would say, as an American, another problem is tobacco and the production of tobacco and how my country sells tobacco to your countries, and then people become addicted to cigarettes. So that's another very huge issue of non-stimulants. And you were next.
I just wanted to mention that tobacco and alcohol cause very terrible birth defects.
Good. Okay, so here's our doctor reminding us that the alcohol and the drugs and the cigarettes, all the addictions create birth defects, which creates more suffering, and the wheel keeps going on. A few more comments. It's just about time to end. Lynn, you're next.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
Is absolutely no alcohol or drugs, or is it misuse? What is the...
Different interpretation.
In any case, we're talking about all the examples of, I think, over and misuse and excessive use of. Does it also mean that you have to look at problems which would cause use and excessive use of alcohol?
So Lynn is saying something very important, which we talked about yesterday, which was structural problems. What Lynn is saying, sometimes people will misuse drugs or alcohol because of all the structural problems of poverty and suffering in their own lives, and they reach for something which they think will help them. So we have to look really at the very larger picture of also what causes the addiction. I see several hands